They only ask for an explanation so they can talk you out of the upgrade. You pull back, you get quiet, you start thinking differently, and immediately they want to know why. Why are you distant? Why aren't you replying like before? Why are you acting so cold? And the moment you answer, you give them power. You enter the old frame. You try to make your evolution palatable. You start justifying a change that was never for them to approve. Because the truth is this: you don't owe anyone a walkthrough of your internal reboot. Not your family, not your partner, not your old friends, not your old self. The system was cluttered. Too many open tabs, too many roles you didn't choose. Too much energy spent explaining why you need to rest, detach, rebuild. You don't need to explain silence. You don't need to narrate change. You need a clear system, clean power, and space to move without being tracked. Because every time you break pattern, they ask questions, not to understand, but to recover control. But here's the shift. You're not pausing to be polite. You're not distant to make a statement. You're not quiet to be mysterious. You're rebooting, and real rebooting requires one rule: no notification, no performance, no permission. We start there. Not discussion. You can't rebuild while still running the same programs that broke you. You can't reset inside the environments that trained your overload, and you definitely can't evolve while explaining yourself to the very people who benefited from your unhealed version. Rebooting requires disconnection, not from everyone, but from anything that tries to keep your signal noisy, your energy exposed, your boundaries negociable. You were not designed to be constantly available, understood, or explainable. That's what broke the system. You tried to change while staying connected to every expectation, every identity, every loop. And each time you slowed down, they asked, "What's wrong? Why are you acting different? Are we okay?" So you explained, softened, justified, and in doing so, you reinstalled the very version you were trying to delete. Here's the shift. You don't reboot through explanation. You reboot through extraction. You pull your attention back, your presence back, your availability back, not out of anger, but out of alignment. You don't say, "I'm going through something." You don't ask, "Can you understand where I'm at?" You simply reduce signal. You go offline mentally, emotionally, digitally. You let the noise burn out so the system can recalibrate. Not everyone will like it. That's expected. But their discomfort is not your obligation, because this time you're not fixing, proving, or rescuing. You're rebuilding quietly, cleanly, without the drag of needing to be seen while doing it. Next, we expose how guilt is the code they run to pull you back into roles you've already outgrown. You're not being asked to explain yourself for their clarity. You're being asked to collapse, to fold back into a version of you that was easier to read, easier to use, easier to predict. And the tool they use isn't force. It's guilt. You've changed. You're so distant lately. I just miss how things used to be. Sounds like care. Feels like memory. But underneath, it's pressure. Because when you don't explain yourself, they can't control the narrative. So they lean on guilt to pull you back into a shape that doesn't fit anymore. This is the guilt loop. Step 1. Soft accusation. You've been off lately. Step 2. Emotional recall. Remember when we used to talk every day? Step 3. Triggered justification. You respond, "I've just been busy. I've had a lot on my mind. I didn't mean to make you feel that way." Now you've returned, not as yourself, but as the version they preferred. Guilt works because you were trained to associate your peace with someone else's discomfort. So when they're unsettled, you feel responsible, and that feeling makes you explain. But explanation isn't resolution. It's re-entry, it's access. It's proof they can still reach you with the right sentence. You don't need to fight them. You just need to recognize the loop. Next time they say, "You've changed," you pause. You don't clarify. You don't soften. You let the sentence hang, and you let their frame die in the silence. Because not every question deserves an answer. Not every concern deserves energy. Not every feeling deserves your repair. Especially when the feeling is a tactic. This isn't about being cold. It's about staying clean. You've cleared the code. Now, protect the reboot. Next, you shift from defense to design, quietly, without re-entry. You don't need to disappear. You need to pull your energy out of roles you never chose. Recalibration doesn't require noise. It requires clarity, and clarity begins when you stop narrating your evolution to people who only listen to keep you where they left you. Step 1. Internal silence. No more rehearsing what you should have said. No more overthinking how they'll interpret your change. No more justifying decisions inside your own head for an audience that isn't even present. When your mind stops performing, your system stops leaking. Step 2. Behavioral reduction. Shorter replies, longer pauses, no explanations wrapped in politeness. You stop managing their perception and start managing your signal. Every action becomes clean, deliberate, without apology. Step 3. Energetic minimalism. You show up when needed. You contribute when it matters. You no longer hand out presents to environments that reward availability but punish clarity. You don't ghost. You don't vanish. You simply stop filling gaps that drain your bandwidth. People will notice. Some will ask. But the point isn't to be missed. It's to be untrackable. You're not angry. You're just done using energy to maintain identities that expired. Let them wonder. Let them reach. Let them feel the reduction. Because when you remove your reaction, you remove their rhythm. This is where reboot begins to stabilize. Not in conflict, but in absence. Not in declarations, but in deletion. Now, you don't just recalibrate internally. You begin exiting the frames that once defined you without leaving anything behind. You don't just walk away from people, you walk away from the roles they assigned you. You were the one who always replied, the one who smoothed things over, the one who said yes before being asked, the one who cared out loud, even when it cost you. And now, you're none of that. But here's the trap. You feel the need to clarify, to offer closure, to exit gracefully, so they don't misunderstand your absence. That instinct is the final leash. Detachment is not clean. If it leaves behind threads, they can pull later. You don't detach halfway. You don't transition roles. You shut the frame down completely. Step 1. Cut behavioral tags. Stop sending the signals they used to identify you. No more over-explaining. No more emotional buffering. No more softening clarity with friendliness. You don't over-comfort to the structures that kept you small. Step 2. No energy refunds. Don't go back to soothe confusion. Don't send final messages to explain your heart. Don't re-enter the room to clean up how they feel about you leaving it. Let the silence do the closing. Step 3. Let distortion happen. They might think you're distant, cold, fake, selfish. Let them. Their interpretation is not your reputation. You're not in control of what they think. You're in control of what you no longer answer to. Detachment becomes permanent when you leave without residue. No strings, no choice, no versions of you left behind for them to activate. And once the frame collapses, you don't walk out. You vanish from their pattern. They look for the switch, but the circuit's been pulled. Next, we shift from deletion to creation, rebuilding a system that no longer requires response to validate presence. Once you've cleared the noise, what remains is signal. No apology, no explanation, just alignment. This is where the real reboot begins, not by being louder, but by being unavailable for anything that doesn't match your new architecture. Old identity, reactive. New identity, responsive. Old identity, accessible. New identity, selective. Old identity, emotional translation. New identity, clean signal. Step 1. Action over expression. You don't talk about your change. You embody it. No updates, nor soft launches. Just different movement, different pacing, different access. Let your decisions speak so clearly. You never have to clarify them. Step 2. Selective visibility. You don't hide, but you don't broadcast either. Your life isn't performance. Your silence isn't mystery. It's sovereignty. People don't need to know what you're doing. They only need to feel that you're no longer where they left you. Step 3. Cold calibration. You don't over-explain your distance. You don't apologize for your new standards. You don't soften your edges for the sake of keeping the old ecosystem comfortable. You've stopped seeking harmony in rooms that cost you identity. From now on, you operate on signal only. If it's not clean, it doesn't connect. If it doesn't resonate, it doesn't stay. If it wants explanation, it doesn't belong. Your core isn't guarded, it's refined. And refinement removes what clings, what pulls, what wants access to an older, softer version of you. That version is gone, not missing, not hiding, deleted. Final step ahead, not a reset, a seal. They will try to decode you, pull you back into old language, ask for explanations, for softness, for proof that your change is just a phase. Let them. Your clarity is not a group project. Your reboot is not a public statement. And your evolution doesn't require a support group to be valid. You're not confusing. You're just no longer readable to systems that were designed to keep you reactive. You don't need to be understood. You need to be intact. And that means accepting that some people will miss the version of you that needed to be explained. Let them miss it. Let the questions come. Let the interpretations circulate. And while they talk, you move. Not louder, not faster, just sharper, cleaner, further. This time, you don't explain silence. You don't ease transitions. You don't fill gaps that were never yours to patch. You left the frame. You cleared the field. You shut off the broadcast. And what's left is signal. You say less. They feel more. That's the frequency of someone who no longer negotiates their presence through validation. 24-hour challenge. No explanations. No. Just so you know. No follow-ups. Let the reboot speak. In absence. Imprecisión. In who you no longer respond to. You don't owe a reason. You don't owe access. You don't over softness. You rebuilt. They don't need to understand it. They'll feel it.